Oh,
Hello. Hi,
mm,
Sophie.
yes. Hi, Mina. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. And of course, welcome to everyone who is tuning into this conversation. It's wonderful to have you with us again in this new money conversation.
Yeah.
Um, and I am Mina Schmidt. I'm here once again with wonderful Dr. Sophie Oblonsky, and we are so glad that you're here with us. Just a few words about us for those who are new before we begin. So, I am a financial coach on a mission to help women build more financial freedom and security. And I support especially busy professional women to make the most of their finances and grow their wealth so they can live their dream life.
Oh, I like this intro. Should do this more often. So I'm Sophie, Dr. Sophie, in between quotes. I'm a life coach and I'm an expert in emotional intelligence, leadership, and well-being science. In other words, positive psychology. I support women executives. They are often in science and finance careers to embrace change in their lives and to make the most of it with clarity, with confidence, and to be able to shine with their true colors. And together with Mina, we created Flourish Financially. And that's really a space where money conversations like this one go beyond spreadsheets and tap into values, into meaning, and of course, into well being.
Exactly. And tonight we are actually going to explore one of the most tender aspects of our relationship with money, which is financial intimacy. At Flourish Financially, we always kind of try to combine the practical, kind of the more numbers part, and the emotional side of money, because both of these sides really matter. And financial intimacy is all about knowing your numbers, yes, of course, but also about knowing yourself in relation to these numbers. And if we think about it, money is one of the most constant presences in our everyday lives. We live with it every day. We make decisions on the go. We depend on it, right? And it's surprising, right, that many of us still keep money at a bit of a distance. And just like in a human relationships, we can also choose whether we want to keep it at a distance or whether we want to actually keep it close to us, right?
Yes, indeed, right? Quite a few parallels with real human relationships, and that's what really attracted our attention. Let me just put quickly a nice hello from
Hi, Rina.
Rina. Wonderful to be here. Yes, we're really glad that you're here. So indeed, the chat is open, right, for comments. So wherever you're watching from, if it's from Facebook, LinkedIn, and also we have it open on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel if you want to find us as well there. So don't hesitate to write us comments. We will read them as we go, and we will probably prompt you also at different points today during the session. See if you want to participate, because the point is we try to make it as interactive as we can. So thank you, Rina. And indeed, so in positive psychology, actually, there was a concept that made me think of this subject that we had chosen, intimacy. And that's the one called high quality connection. So it's quite relevant in this subject. I think it's interesting. It's about how a relationship we can have where we feel safe, we feel seen, and we feel energized. And in fact, these same qualities, they can exist in our relationship with money in a way: safety, trust, openness. So that's why we wanted to invite you today to actually maybe reflect a little bit with us. So we're going to prompt you just now and ask you, for example, if money were a person, how would you describe your current relationship? Would you say more of a loyal friend? Would you think of it maybe of a relationship with maybe a complicated ex Mina, you don't go further. You will stop here. That's or maybe a respectful colleague, or maybe a stranger actually that you avoid. So if anyone wants to interact, please put your answer, any of these or another answer that comes to your mind when you're thinking about what's your relationship, your current relationship with money. And try to do it without judgment, right? The point is really just to see what's coming naturally.
Yeah, I think this is such an interesting questions. And while we wait for people to answer in the chat,
Yeah.
what would you say, Sophie? Is money a friend or a foe for you?
Yeah, that's quite a beautiful and at the same time a bit thought-provoking question. And for me, of course, there are several versions of that, but I would say that my relationship with money started a bit more with curiosity. We will speak about our own journeys as well in this session, but it was like getting to know someone new, perhaps, as I was growing up. And then over time, I feel it came to a point where it was quite transactional. It was, fair, like in a way respectful, but also a bit distant, perhaps, and maybe also a bit boring. It was not very
So
exciting.
not a very interesting.
Not very spicy, let's put it this way. And so for years, I think then I really kept it at arm's length, and I was not thinking for myself, how can I take the relationship to the next level? Interesting metaphors, right?
Yes.
So lately that's been changing, in part thanks to this work we do with Flourish Financially and other self-development work as well. So now I feel much more of a sense of expansion, of warmth, and it's like finally we're getting to know each other really with more trust, maybe even affection. It's very strange that this is going like that, right, for me. And how about you, Mina?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I would say that money is overall kind of a friendly presence in my life rather than some kind of enemy, right? But kind of as I was reflecting on this, something that came to my mind is that I seem to have like some degree of kind of respect towards money. Kind of like would be maybe appropriate to a kind of a colleague or some kind of powerful person in my life, rather than like kind of an intimate friend, right? And I don't know where this exactly comes from. Maybe from could be from the fact that I work a lot with finances in my life, right? And I have also seen how kind of having it or not having it can make such a difference to people's lives. So I could say maybe it's something like a respected colleague. I seem to respect the power of money. I let it do its work, through investments, but I also don't maybe tell my deepest secrets to it. So it feels like it has a lot of weight and authority. I don't know if that tells something to you, Sophie, but...
Yeah, no, I can completely relate to that. I mean, in part, and in addition, that's why it's a multiple relationship, right? And we will see after that what other people have written as well. But it's true. What really strikes me there is this power that money can have over our emotions, right? Because when we start to attach a meaning that having or not having money will bring us certain things like power, like freedom, like security, maybe sometimes even love, although, you could even say happiness. I mean, most people argument that money doesn't bring happiness, but it doesn't prevent sometimes to fall into that trap for a little while. And to do that thought work is so crucial, right? To detach from this meaning that we put on money and realize that actually we're speaking of our deeper needs. And these needs we can fulfill ourselves so that then we can use money to be even more aligned. So then money can play this work of almost being a multiplier of whatever we're doing for ourselves, right? It's this tool to become more of who we want to be. I think that's really at the heart of Flourish Financially, and I find it fascinating. So, yeah.
Love it. Let's see what people have said, because I think we have some interesting answers here.
I was smiling with Felicia's answer.
A ghost. I love that. So if money is a ghost in your life, that's a very interesting one.
That's also because we're next to Halloween, no? Perhaps it's
Maybe
coming.
it's already Halloween mood. Yeah, but I mean, that tells something, right? If money is an absence or kind of maybe a bit scary presence in your life. Let's see what Rina said: an ally, a teammate, an inspirator, but who is sometimes a bit unpredictable and inconsistent. Okay, so maybe there's something there. That's very interesting. And let's see here. It's a friend who comes as a snowstorm and then fades away just to return next year.
I love it because it's creating such an inspiration, right? Even as I was reflecting on that, and I think it's the same when you did that small exercise, we see how it creates a new depth in that reflection, right? Have we ever thought about money in that way, right? So what does that really say when you're thinking of money as something that comes in and then goes away? I mean, what kind of relationship we also want to have could be an interesting then next step. What does that
Very
say?
interesting. And then there is Leah as well. Hi, Leah.
Hey.
Somebody I know who's important, even vital for my well-being, but I prefer not to have much to do with it. Maybe like a doctor. Wow, that's very insightful. So it's kind of like going to a doctor appointment. You kind of know that you need to take care of it, but it's not necessarily always a pleasant experience doing it.
Right. I mean, I get that from your interpretation, and I was also thinking of that sort of authority figure again, right, in the doctor, because many of us, not all of us, but many of us, we have quite respect, right, for doctors, and so it's almost like they hold the knowledge how to remedy something. Very interesting things to look at there. Wow, thank you so much, everyone, for this participation, and. Let's maybe move on, right?
Yes. Let's indeed start with going deeper into this topic and kind of why it matters so much. So, of course, we probably all know that on the practical level, knowledge is power. And of course, understanding your numbers allows you kind of to reclaim more control and power, right? And make more strategic choices. Because then when you recognize where you actually are, you can see what are the risks, what are the opportunities, where you can grow. But at the same time, numbers alone are not everything, right? This is a relationship, and intimacy also requires compassion. And when we look at our financial reality, we can also do it gently, right? With kindness rather than criticism. And I think it's so important to remember this, that your net worth is not your self-worth, right?
Yeah, that's a very nice one. Huh? I mean, I think we need sometimes to remind ourselves. But it's true that actually what happens is that when people avoid to look at their finances, is not out of laziness. It's much more about a sort of emotional avoidance. Like we don't want to go towards that discomfort or perhaps what's going to happen to us when we start looking. And we try to avoid maybe shame or some other uncomfortable mirror kind of experience. So reclaiming that part of us that's a bit like a scientist. That's why I'm always fascinated about that. But this idea that we can use a curious, very observant eye when we think about our finances instead of criticism, and really being open, right, to whatever these numbers can tell us. And there are so many layers and stories, and that's also what we do, right, in the program also of Flourish Financially, looking at the different meaning layers, not just the first one, not just the way we've always thought about money, because that one might not be as constructive as we want it to be. So actually, like with any relationship that we have, it's almost like there's this step of self-disclosure, right? We want to get perhaps one step closer in the relationship. It's time to be a bit more honest. It's time to show ourselves, potentially even naked at some stage. So it's to see and to be seen. And I think we wanted to prompt again our audience that's here with us tonight. Yes. A short reflection here around this emotional dimension, right?
Exactly. So you can again use the chat function on the platform where you are to enter there. One or two words, right? What emotion would you like to feel in your relationship with money? And we put here a few examples, but please choose your own, right? What do you think you would like to feel? So trust or gratitude, perhaps safety, pride. And if I think about this while we wait for the answers to come in, I would say, actually, I have two now. So I would probably say one is like trust, right? Because also being an entrepreneur, right? I want to be able to rely on money, that it is there, that everything will be well, that I'm prepared no matter what life throws at you. But the other emotion that I would like, I don't know if is it really even an emotion, but freedom is so important for me. So it's that context of that money can bring you more options, more choices, more power in some ways as well, right? So that's also an important one. What about you, Sophie? Do you have some emotion?
Yes, of course. I mean, we've been thinking about that also at times, and trust I really like. I agree. And but for me, what is even more important right now, I think I would like to move away from a sense of almost feeling stiff and rigid around money to something more relaxed and yet steady, right? So it's around the trust, but it's in that way that I wouldn't feel it so like strict and controlling almost. So in the relationship with money, I think I would like to feel more grounded, less volatile perhaps, and ultimately being in terms of like ease, not maybe so much control. But it's interesting you mentioned freedom, because I think with freedom, it's like what you were explaining is really that sense of being psychologically free almost, of maybe a certain suffering that comes when, well, you're actually not necessarily involved, right? Because if you don't know anything about what's going on, it's hard to feel really at ease, probably.
Exactly. And I think what you were saying is just like this flow and fluidity kind of, this is a bit like adaptable, right? That supports you, but also playfulness, right? Not only so serious and rigid, like there's a lot of these things. And I see there are some wonderful words also coming from our audience. Let's show some of them. So from Emily, neutrality. That's an interesting one. Neutrality. So not too emotionally close either, but sort of a neutral tool perhaps that can work as expected. That's something that comes to my mind from that. So very important. Interesting one. And here we have Felicie with serenity. Oh, that's a beautiful one.
Yeah, that sense of peace. I think it's really something that many of us like strive for in this relationship with money, because frankly, the reason being that sometimes we feel a bit tortured by what's going on financially, and it's not very pleasant. So really reassuringly, I think by doing the work, by becoming more aware, it's really little by little that we feel things are settling down. And that's really a wonderful experience, right? To try to bring that. So amazing. Thank you, Felicie.
That's lovely. And from Leah, we have enthusiasm and competence. That's
Yeah.
nice also. That's about being proactive. It's about knowing what to do, feeling in control perhaps, right? But also happy about it, enthusiastic. I love that.
Yeah, I love also in enthusiasm this idea of the optimism, right? And also the almost the forward looking, right? Because again, it's the experience of many of us, and I would include myself also previously, and not or even sometimes now, that we feel we're dragging ourselves like to get things done financially. It's not really, I wouldn't go naturally with enthusiasm, but when we know this is what we want, then we can start finding ways of making it more enthusiastic as an activity. And similarly with competence, right? We can learn how to show to ourselves that we're competent, because I think with women, what happens, we often tell ourselves that we're not, when in fact, we're always starting from somewhere. So I think no one that's, for example, on the call today could be really, put on the spotlight that they don't know anything, right?
Oh,
But sometimes we speak to ourselves in this way. Yeah.
that's right. Exactly. It's all about those money beliefs. And let's see here what we have here. Gratitude. That's also a nice one. Yeah. Gratitude. Very positive emotion as well. And I know this often comes, to mind when people are complaining and kind of wallowing in the negative sometimes. There's never enough money. There's always some issues. How about gratitude, right?
Gratitude is a wonderful positive psychology intervention. I mean, it can take many forms, and it's really one of the very powerful levers of well-being. I mean, it doesn't work at any source, so you need to find the right way to bring it, because if it's fake, then it doesn't work. It's like with any software. So it's like, oh, I'm so grateful, but actually you don't believe it, it won't work. But to find the way to activate that, some people are more natural about that than others, but can be really, really powerful to get on that path towards, what we're talking about here, financial well-being, financial flourishing. So very nice. Yeah, I like that.
Nice. And there's one more here, which is from Olia. Hello, Olia.
Oh.
Like old money, knowing that they will always be there. Yeah, that's like a bit about security, right? About that trust that everything will be well, I will be always covered. That kind of things that come to my mind from this. Interesting, this like old money, right? That's something that's kind of maybe going down in the family, many generations being there for you.
Yeah, I guess also from that, I hear maybe the desire for confidence, right? Which is one of these it's very often what we hear as well, right, in our work, that people would like to feel more confident in how they approach their finances. And yeah, with that sentence, knowing that they will always be there, really that reliability, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So nice.
Very
Thank you,
good.
everyone. Lots of interesting things. So let's move on to part 2. Up. Yeah, the emotional journey. So, as we were briefly saying before, sometimes looking at the numbers, a bit like standing in front of a mirror, naked or not, depending how we feel, but it can feel like really we don't like what we see. So we focus on the mistakes, maybe the messiness, or the unknown, what we don't know, what we can't see, right? But truly, it is a practice. And if we stay with it long enough, if we manage to pass that point of discomfort, maybe even with the help of somebody holding your hands, so I'm making all sorts of metaphor here, but that's really having the support, you can work on getting more curiosity, and curiosity can replace the fear. It can be both coexist, and then little by little you can have a different kind of balance. And once you get there, it's really good because you see strengths, you see possibility, you start seeing others. So the facts haven't changed, the circumstances, right? We always talk about this. They haven't changed, but our way to look at them has changed.
Right.
And that's really powerful. So for us, we see financial intimacy is like a journey. We go from discomfort, then to awareness, and then we can go towards growth and alignment, because with growth, you realign. So it's almost like this process, this natural process. And also what we see in the work we do, for example, with the Flourish Financially program, right, is how much of an identity shift it can be. In fact, in time, you let go almost of that old self, the one that maybe was telling in the mirror, I'm not good with money, now decides to see something else, right? You're learning a new way to speak to yourself. And and that's a very nice experience to be either witnessing or going through for yourself.
Yes, and it's true. It really evolves kind of with time and repetition. Yeah. Financial intimacy kind of grows like any relationship, right? Through regular, honest connection. First time you open your numbers or kind of face them, if you haven't done it, it might feel awkward or a little bit painful. But after a few months, you start recognizing patterns and the emotions. You start making wins, doing small steps, and suddenly it starts to feel empowering rather than overwhelming. And I have seen this with so many women that I work with, and I really love seeing this click kind of when it happens. And of course, the numbers are there. They don't lie. They are what they are. Instead, you can think that they tell a story. And sometimes maybe you don't want to hear at first the message they are telling, but then it kind of becomes this wonderful starting point where you can start being the proactive one. You can start shaping your finances and your story, right? That's really a nice thing when it happens.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a bit like exposure therapy sometimes at the beginning. But anyway, when we pass that, so it's really amazing what you were just saying, in terms of like shaping the finances and having that really powerful insight. Suddenly you're able to see a story, right? Your story perhaps, but with a bit of a distance instead of already being entangled in it. So what kind of insights do people typically get, Mina? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, we can also go a little bit into this numbers part, right? So one thing that anyone can basically start to do as a kind of first easy step is to start tracking their monthly financial flows. So this is kind of just money that is coming in. So income from different sources like salary or entrepreneurial income or other sources, and then money that is flowing out into different kinds of expenses. And of course, some of it hopefully going also to savings and investments. And I'll put here on the screen kind of just as an example, a very simple kind of analysis that you can do for yourself if you have a good hang on your numbers. What are kind of the typical issues that someone might see when they are looking at these monthly flows? And then this is more like, a bit the doctor kind of analyzing it, but then it's about actually turning it around and into your strategy, right? So this is just the first part of it. So these are typical issues, and you can think about it there who are participating if any of these actually resonates with you, and you can put it in the chat.
It's the diagnosis, right?
Yeah, this is more the diagnosis part. So let's look at it. Let's be honest to ourselves, right, as well. And then we can start to work with it, right? So the first one is having kind of very high fixed expenses. So what are those? They are things like rent or health insurance, things that you have to pay every month, a fixed amount. And if these are very high, for example, let's say 80% of your income goes to these fixed expenses, that really feels tight, right? Because it leaves you like very little room to do other things, like using things on your variable expenses, going travels, for example, or investing, right? So if you have a very high fixed cost, that can feel quite difficult, right? But there are things that you can also do with that, even though changing them takes a bit more time, but there are always things that you can do. It's good to know if this is the case or not. The second one is to have more high variable expenses. So these are things like holidays, shopping, going out to eat, entertainment, things that you can easily dial up and down every month, right? You can choose if you go for that holiday or if you go shopping. This could be also related potentially to emotional spending, right? So rewarding yourself or keeping up with the Joneses. There's like all these different emotional things related to this part. So again, good to know if this is the case. There are a lot of things that you can do without just going on a full diet or budgeting. That's not not to say that, but first is to have good awareness. The third one is low investment rate. So if you have money going regularly to investments, that's really helpful to build further financial security. But if that doesn't happen, right, it's mostly focused on the today's needs, right? So if you think this could be an issue for you, maybe for some people it's, they have their expenses very well under control, but actually are not putting aside money to their future needs. That could be also something to recognize. High debt payments is one as well. If you have very high level of debt, it can also really feel like you're a bit of a prisoner of this debt. But also, by the way, on the other side, right, the next one's not spending enough. So there are a lot of people for whom it's hard to spend money. Like it feels actually bad to spend money, feeling guilty about it, feeling very anxious about it, and actually leaving opportunities on the table to enjoy also your well-earned money. Or last but not least, not spending intentionally. So not really taking the time to think what matters to you and where do you want to spend your money and what aligns with your values, but just, not really thinking about it that much. So you can do this kind of analysis, and we are going to give you soon a monthly financial planner that you can use to do this. I'm going to just put to the next page.
And I love the last one because it makes me think of mindfulness, right? It's almost like you don't let yourself even being conscious of what's going on. When, you could choose like either I enjoy, like which would be the first one, almost you enjoy too much that you're spending too much, or you don't enjoy and you're feeling pain, you don't like to spend. But then there's the middle, which is not good enough either, right? It's also uncomfortable. You don't feel anything.
Yeah.
It's like you're detached from what happens because of lack of intentionality. It's really interesting. Anyway, yes.
It's interesting. Have you thought for yourself, Sophie, if any one of these resonates while we wait for the answers to come?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, the one that really, low investment rate, I think is a bit of something that's very common, right? Because not many people are, depends what you mean by investing, but if we're thinking like investing in stocks, for example, stock market, we know that the percentage of people really investing is low, and among women is even lower. So I was definitely in that, but also feeling bad when spending. I really had to work on that. And it's again a bit this impression of going through almost exposure therapy. The more you do it, the better it gets. But is also not so easy, right? It seems almost futile. It's not something that is so simple to talk about with other people, because people would be like, well, I don't see the problem, right? If you have money, like, you can spend it. Like, why don't you? But if
Yeah.
when you really have it, it's. What about you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think one is the high fixed expenses. Yeah, because having kids, living in Switzerland, we have a big mortgage. We have like quite a few things. Childcare is also very expensive here and so on. So there's a lot of these things which are quite hard to change. I mean, obviously you could change them if you really change you can always move to a different place or like, but you want to keep up to this lifestyle, right? So that's like relatively high, I would say, and not so easy to change. Investments, I try to keep that up because that's a priority for me, obviously, but not spending intentionally is also a good one, right? Because I realized at some point, for example, I wasn't spending enough on my health. Like it was also about prioritizing it, right? Taking care of myself, or like, going also to the doctor, or like, fitness, whatever, right? And now I've started to actually prioritize more spending on those things. So I think that's quite important.
Oh, very good. So
Let me put it here as well. So we have indeed this gift, right?
yeah, I'm gonna show the banner that corresponds if people want to rather get the link. But if you have your mobile phone and you're watching this from the computer, then you can scan the QR code, of course. So you see the tracker down there. So we have it coded with the bit.ly, and then you have ff-monthly-planner. So we're gonna let this one scroll through, right? And if you wanna write it down or just again use the QR code, we're gonna put it as comment as well on the event probably afterwards. So
yeah, it's a pretty, I mean, it's a relatively simple but actually quite powerful tool, and you can use it kind of to track your monthly flows, and it also includes some tips on what to watch out for, what to analyze. Do take advantage of it if you like, and let us know also what you thought of it if you're using it.
So of course it's a tool that's very important because it's about creating that intimacy by looking in the mirror. So it's almost like we're providing a way to be creating that reflection, right? In the sense of the mirror reflection. And
Yes.
I think it's also a shift in the mindset when you're able to grasp that perhaps going about doing your finances can be an act of intimacy, of self-care, is an important shift as well, right? It seems really silly to some extent, but it's not. It's very important. It can make the whole difference between creating that famous intrinsic motivation, right? That's the one that everybody wants to tap into. Well, we need to create that, and it comes also from knowing why we're doing it and creating that narrative around why we're doing it. So thanks for creating this resource, Mina. It's amazing.
Yes, hope you like it, and let's see what there. So from Joshua, I'm grateful for the vital information. Very good. Very nice to hear this. Thank you, Joshua. And from Rina, low investment rate here. Want to be intentional with investing, aligned with my values. Sustainable investing, which requires some research that I haven't taken the time to do. Yes, so this is important. Actually mixes kind of intentionality and investing in a very nice way, right? Using your values with your finances, right? That's very nice.
It's important work. It's important work. I mean, we're talking here about finances. It's in life in general, right? So making the time to be thinking this a bit more intentionally than perhaps what we have done in the past is something we can all choose to start, right? It can be a very interesting experience to try it.
Very good. Shall we move on to the next part?
Yeah, that's the part where we get onto the the grill. I think.
Let's do it. So I'll put here the personal journeys, right?
Oh, here we are. Oh, boom, on the screens, right? Let's make it personal, Mina.
Let's make it personal indeed. So we wanted to share with a few words kind of what has happened to us personally on this topic of financial intimacy, because I think it's quite interesting. Yeah, let me start. Right. So the pictures on the left are the ones of me. So my own relationship with money has definitely changed quite a bit over time. When I was a child, then I would say I didn't really kind of count my money, or it wasn't talked about that much in my family. My parents had to be economical for sure. We didn't go often like out to eat in the restaurant. Instead, we always took like some sandwiches along, or bought things from the supermarket. So there was this feeling of money is scarce, money is tight, but not too much, right? But still, I remember as a kind of teenager, it was very important for me to start working, like doing my own jobs, right? And starting to earn my own money so that I could then decide for myself kind of what I wanted to buy. So it was this confidence, building building the relationship that, hey, this is something I can handle myself. I can earn myself. That's cool. And then as a student, there I had this phase in my life where I had to be very careful with money. I had to really count, be very economical, like count every euro that I had so that I could make ends meet and make those things happen that I wanted to do. I really wanted to, for example, go study abroad, and I loved it. I was living my first year abroad in Paris. And Paris is very expensive for a student from Finland. So I lived in this really tiny box, awful student dormitory, and I had to count like all the money I could spend. But I was at the same time so happy. I was living in the most beautiful city of the world, and I was just, keeping very tight budget. I went to IKEA to buy some decoration for my flat, very cheap, and it still already made it much nicer. So it was kind of this feeling of freedom and happiness that money doesn't matter so much. But then came a change, right? After student times, going to the career years in my kind of late 20s and early 30s, it went more to the opposite extreme, right? So I started having a very good salary. I was working very hard. I stopped tracking money. I started actually to kind of spend quite carelessly, probably like kind of a bit, consoling myself slightly with spending when it was kind of tough years, sometimes working very hard. And I really didn't treat money well. I didn't invest. I wasn't strategic at all. And I now regret it, right? If I had taken the time to be a bit more thoughtful in those years, I could have actually really built more financial security, but I didn't. And then in late 30s, kind of, having kids and the sort of the reality starts hitting in somehow. I kind of realized that I was missing out on a lot by not being more intentional. And I then started getting very enthusiastic about investing, and we bought our first property in Switzerland. We started doing things quite strategically. And I started also seeing that there are so many opportunities offered by money. If you treat it well and you take care of it, it will also grow and help you. And then now I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I've probably reached my highest level of financial intimacy. I really track regularly everything, which is probably also too much sometimes, because I started feeling these moments of scarcity mindset, the fear of what if it all disappears, and there's no more of that nice paycheck coming in every month, and everything is hanging on your own shoulders, right? So, but at the same time, I feel so much prouder of the money that I earn myself. It feels really good. It's so much more, in a way, precious than the earlier salary. So there's now this more like respect and comfort with money. Yeah, it's definitely more intimate, I would say.
It's so
It's a long
interesting.
story, but
No, no,
yeah,
but
it's like that. What do you think, Sophie?
I'm thinking that to do this, I mean, of course, we have prepared, right, for that. I mean, we've made the slide. We were thinking about like how we can tell our own stories with intimacy and money. So it's talking about our relationship. And there's always so much that comes from doing this revisiting of the past and telling the story. So, and then you see also in your story, and I think it comes also through mine, like the shifts in time, right? So it's dynamic. The good news, you can always reconnect, right, with money, because it's such, I mean, it's really everywhere in the life. So there's always an opportunity to go to a next chapter. But to do that consciously is a bit what, here, by just thinking how it was in the past, it really helps to also see maybe what we don't want anymore, what we may want to consider doing again, or just try something else. And so that's an exercise. I mean, if anybody wants to do that on their own, I mean, we encourage. It's also some of these revisiting of the past that we do in the program Flourish Financially, and it's really one of the parts we absolutely love, right? Because so much comes from that. So yes, as for me, I think as a child, I know I always love taking care of my stuff. So I have a bit of that squirrel attitude. Like I have my pile of nuts, and whatever nuts they are, like it's my stuff. So, and I had my little treasures, my books, my whatever, my sweets and things like that. And I don't think I focused so much on money per se, but I did have a piggy bank, and I like the feeling of having stuff inside, right? So it's that impression I have something. And I remember in particular that I had the opportunity to sell some objects and old toys at a local fair, and I earned quite a bit of money. It was once a year, and I felt really rich of that, right? It was an experience of, oh wow, I'm so proud I earned, like I have. So this impression of more abundance was really there. And also my father was proposing me to play with him at investing. So we have in France the CCAV. I think it was something like investment funds. And he would, so he was telling me, if you give me this money, I give you this much interest rate. And so I was counting, and I thought, well, that's quite nice. Like, because since I was a bit more naturally a saver, like that kind of suited me well. And I could see that it was a nice impression when the value went up. And then at the same time, I also got really an experience of scarcity as a mindset. And I was hearing a lot around me growing up, it's expensive, almost like a default setting in the message. Everything was expensive. And also this kind of sentence that we're not rich. Whatever that meant, right? Because in a way, we're more middle class, I would say. And so we were not really suffering or in poverty in that sense. So I remember particularly, and it's true, it's something that I think about regularly, when one summer, my father decided that he would write on, we had a whiteboard in the kitchen on the door. He would write all of our holiday costs. It was a budget. And it was almost like a warning, and he kept saying that it was so expensive. Like we would go on holiday, it was going to cost so much. There was the table with the figures. And it was interesting how I could see the number and not really sensing what it meant, because I think as a child to see this number is really, I see this even with my kids, perhaps you have that too, when you say a number and then they are looking at you to know, is it expensive or is it, they're kind of like asking for the adult view on whether it's a lot or not. And so in a way, that really kind of stuck with me, that almost like, yeah, the holidays were a luxury, and, you know, these kind of things were like something a bit bad. And so that was an interesting one. Another experience that I got was the one budgeting. So my father proposed me to keep a budget table, and I was doing this so detailed, like it was down to the, you know, little cup of coffee, having at the machine 50 cents at the time, euro. And then I liked, again, this impression of like stacking up the lines, you know, like I knew everything was in there. It was very detailed. And then he would decide at the end of the month what he was going to reimburse. So I can see now how that kind of approach was, in a way, good because I was very detailed, but also not so good because it made me feel very disempowered in a sense. I didn't really have that sense of autonomy financially. It was like I had to look up if somebody would agree on my spending. And also it felt quite like, again, like looking into my intimacy, right? When you have to really write down everything and show it to somebody who's going to decide. So anyway, that was interesting. I mean, I think I'm going to stop there on my personal journey. There are different kind of this experience. It's nice to illustrate with that what you can do also, the people in the audience trying to uncover certain things about your relationship. Maybe why you are feeling a certain way today, and maybe also what you want to do differently.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. It's so powerful and so human, right? It's really it's a mirror actually of our personal development, right? It really is, right?
But yeah. So
let's move to the next part.
Yeah,
I think one.
That's like an interesting part that we wanted to offer today as well. It's we wanted to play a little bit with this metaphor there's this book that's very famous. Maybe some of you have read it. It's called the 5 Love Languages. The Secret to Love That Lasts, right? I mean, you can see the book here. It was written actually before positive psychology was a thing, so it's not necessarily associated with it, but at the same time, it really has that idea of how to look at this positive emotion of love that maybe was considered by many as something that you don't really study, right? Why study this? But in the end, we see that we can look at this in a very structured way. And the idea here was that you can... Okay, so what are the 5 love languages, first of all? So, in fact, in his book, the idea was that we each have preferred ways of giving and receiving love. So, these are what we call the love languages. And these 5 languages are the ones that are listed here. So, on the left, we see there are words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, gifts, receiving or giving, and also physical touch. And so this is how each of us can express, receive love differently. And so if we use that metaphor of the love in a way with money, we can almost humanize, in that sense, the relationship with money. And it's not about looking at it now from an angle of it's something cold and distant, but really, can it be a meaningful partner that responds in a way to how we show up? Going back again, if it were a person, how would we express love? Yes. So here we put in this table a way that you can think about that with reflection prompts. So if we take, for example, words of affirmation, what could this mean financially? So financially, it could be that, well, we're trying to develop and use kind, intentional financial self-talk, for example. We're intentionally going to express gratitude for what money can enable, as somebody was saying in the comments. So if you want to explore that for yourself, in a way of how you can expand your relationship with money based on where you're starting now. You could ask yourself, do I speak kindly to myself about money? Or is it more filled with criticism and fear? And you can see here that actually you can do that with the different elements. And I particularly like the one on physical touch, because I think that we're living in a moment where money has become very dematerialized. It's a bit like human relationships. And so you could say that, I mean, we become more detached from the numbers, but even the physical sensation of holding money in our wallet, in our hand, what does it mean for us, right? How can we reconnect, especially if it's a love language that is important to us, as it might be, right? Because it might be one of the. So, yeah, I think we wanted to offer that kind of metaphor, quality time, of course. How can we ensure that we're spending enough quality time with money?
In a way that comes to my mind, we're kind of taking care here also of ourselves, right? So the money is in some ways an extension of ourselves, and by treating ourselves and our money well, we build this trust and confidence and this safe feeling, right? Maybe love with money, so for some people that creates again negative thoughts around that, but I think it's not that. It's not about greed or wanting more money for the sake of it, but it's exactly that spirit of taking care, feeling heard, feeling safe, right? Dedicating the gratitude, perhaps, these kind of things, right?
Yeah, and two things here really. The first one is, I mean, it's an interesting exercise to try and pronounce this word for yourself. I love money. What is coming up?
What comes up to you? If you're having now like a very allergic Grinch reaction, that tells you something. Why? Why do you feel like that? Is someone out there? Please put in the chat if this is you cringing on that one. It's an interesting observation, right? It does certainly feel like saying that out loud. I love money. Like, there would be like different groups of people where I know this would definitely not be a very accepted thing to say, right?
It's interesting, right?
But we are here in Flourish Financially, so we can definitely say that, right?
Oh, I love me. What happens, right? Because it's one thing. Yeah. So the second thing, what is interesting again with this table, if people want to go back to it as well, like, I mean, you can get the book as well, of course, is this idea, what if you wanted to get more towards that direction without, getting all carried away, but still you could try on each of these levers and see what happens, because it may not be as, again, silly as it looks. It may be a very deep and meaningful experience of reconnecting with yourself. And then, yeah, I think, again, as we were offering a bit earlier in the explanation, the point being that money in itself is more neutral. So what we're working on here is self-love, nothing more, nothing less. And how money can enter that equation in a way that's, maybe flowy, maybe, not as strict and stiff as it once used to be. So...
Right, so interesting, right? I saw Felicie's lovely comment. What is this?
Cringe. It's all the cringe.
I see the cringe. It's like you saw my face. I love it, Felicie. This is the cringe. You're not alone with the cringe. I think there's many people who who have this feeling that money is somehow bad, right? Wanting more is bad or greedy, and striving to be wealthy is somehow not a worthy objective, let's say, right? There's a lot of like morality in this, right?
But even without going like that far, it's really also about sometimes the words, because I also have the same kind of reaction when I talk about self-love sometimes in coaching, like early in the process. So what I encourage, or like, when you're having like conflictual situations and you say, yeah, think about the love that you can have for the other human. So you can sometimes replace the word love by the word respect, and do the same work. So forget love if that's a blocker. Work on respect and do the same there. Respectful physical touch, gifts of respect, acts of service, quality time. So all of this can be also articulated around that.
So here is someone saying quality time. Maybe Olia. Yeah, that's a good one. Having money dates, for example. And Rina here feels natural and right. But that has taken a lot of inner work in the past years, right? So clearing subconscious and limited family line beliefs and past trauma and lack from the body level through somatic and embodiment work. Wow, yeah. Yeah, these things, I mean, they are also sometimes felt in our body, right? In our minds, in our body, right? In our beliefs, in everything, right? So clearing that up might take actually some work, but it's still so worth it, right? To do it.
So be conscious of time. Maybe let's go towards closing our conversation.
Yes, we are coming to the hour.
So
the slides away. Yes, exactly.
Let's maybe just have this ticker again if somebody wants to still get the gift. So that was the offer today. We wanted to make a subject that by default is really not considered a sexy one into something that may go a little bit more towards that direction. And if you don't like the word sexy or love, then think about respect. That works as well. So maybe pay a little bit more respect to something that can help us, right, grow and go into a bit of a more caring approach to this important subject.
I love that, and I love this also. This like kind of quote. Let's say every time you choose awareness over avoidance, you're actually deepening your financial intimacy and your growth, right?
Oh,
That's
beautiful.
that's really it, right? So thank you so much for everyone who's been with us today. It was a lovely conversation with you all. We will continue this journey, right?
Yes, I mean we are on the track. So we haven't yet decided what our next money conversation is going to be about, but we're coming back in November. I don't think we wrote the date, but that's about in about a month, right? I think something like 18th of November, something like that. So stay tuned, everybody. If you want to let us know what you thought of this money conversation, please do. You know where to find us, right? You can send us a DM via LinkedIn, for example. Or, of course, download the Financial Monthly Planner and see what happens emotionally, right? So it's always the combination. Don't just look at the numbers. See what happens emotionally. And if anything, yeah, we're always there to provide a bit of guidance, feedback, support. Yeah.
Yes, we love to always hear from you. And also, if you have a favorite topic you would like us to tackle in these money conversations, let us know. We've done everything from even death to financial relationships.
That's right.
Kids, all kinds of topics. So thank you for being here, and hope you can keep on flourishing both financially and emotionally, right?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina. Thank you so much for being there.
You rock.
Oh, Felicity, you rock. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot. And yeah, I mean, the whole split, right? From last year, we did money and death, and tonight we did financial intimacy. So
Exactly, it's really all the ends. And thank you very much. It was very insightful hours. Thank you so much for this. I really love to hear. Really love to hear this.
All right. So let's stay tuned. Wishing everyone a great evening or whatever is the next thing on your calendar if you're watching this as replay. It was great to be here.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you
Bye,
soon.
Sophie.
Cheers.